for your safety, for your good. Emergency, this is something to watch out for. Well, we don't tell you everything. You know, we hear those terms a lot of times from our media or our government. And really what's scary is a lot of the things that we don't know, or a lot of the things we don't pay attention to, can really affect us. And we could see more of a societal issue. So let's jump into some of those stories that we tend to not look at and tend to not hear about as much. And if we don't pay attention to them and we don't get the whole perspective of what's going on, we may not be prepared when something really goes wrong. I feel like we're in this powder keg again, and the match is just trying to strike. And it's just like, which one will strike? Which one will actually ignite the fire? So let's jump into some stories that we need to be paying attention to, because for our safety, we might not know a lot of that. Let's jump into this video. It's going to be a good one. It starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sending comments and emails all evening and all morning. Mississippi did have some major damage and a lot of loss of life, a lot of fatalities. We're south of that. We got a ton of rain and a ton of thunderstorms, but we were safe here on farm. We did move some animals around because we were supposed to get tornadoes. We were under watches all evening, but we were blessed to not go through that. But North Mississippi got hit really hard. So be in prayer for those families, and just thank you again for your concern. For a lot of you that emailed us and reached out to us, it means the world to us. But keep those families in your prayers. Let's jump into the video today. I say this sarcastically and facetiously, but I hear the terms that the government says, you know, for your protection, for your safety, fear, for your good, and it's an emergency. Now we hear those terms, and a lot of times when we hear those terms, what that does is it takes away some of the freedoms that we have based on some of the things. I think of firearms. You know, for the safety and concern of people, we're going to regulate it more. Well, is that really for our safety? I think of food. We're hearing different foods are actually processed and they're causing bad health issues. I think of obesity and all these health issues and cancer. Well, it's for our safety that FDA looked into it, and FDA let us eat it, and all of a sudden now it's killing us. I think of safe and effective and trust the science. Those terminology things that we heard is we're just supposed to just believe everything that we hear and see and know that it's, you know, it's going to be good for us. Those terms are thrown to us by the government or by, you know, the powers that be for, you know, so things won't get out of hand. We won't lose trust in our government. And I understand that. And then some things we don't need to know. We don't need to know every little thing that the FBI, CIA, or any of these agencies that are keeping us safe may know. Now, that doesn't mean that all of them are honest, but I do believe that for our protection, sometimes security we don't need to know about. However, I say that, however, as a libertarian and as a conservative libertarian, there's things I think that we are getting hid from us that could ultimately help us individually. And I think those things are hidden from us because they're looking out for the greater good. But the question is the greater good helping you? I think of banking as number one. We see that we don't want to collapse. So, okay, we don't want a bank run. We understand all that. But we don't realize how much borrowing and how much volatility there is in the banking and finance sector. It's amazing. A lot of the problems that we've had has been on the deposit side and on the money side, on the liquid side. Can the banks give our money back to us? We've not even talked about the debt side. We've not even talked about the inflation still that's happening. We're not even talking about the Fed raising rates still. So we're in such a volatility with our money that do we leave it in there for safety? The government just, you know, funded all this to be taken care of, and FDIC covers all those depositors that probably shouldn't have been covered because it was over the limit. Now, I'm not saying I want people's money safe, but what I am saying is we're on the hook for that because we're the taxpayers. The problem is, if all of a sudden we see more banks falling, where does that money come from? We have to print more. We're in piles of debt. So it's a problem that I think is going to snowball if we don't get a hold of it. I go back to, you know, pushing precious metals. I go back to pushing food. I go back to pushing having cash or having some kind of currency on hand. Because if we're not tangibly having it in our hand, then it may not be worth anything as time permits. For instance, Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been going up crazy lately. However, it stopped and subsided a little bit because one of the big companies, they kind of withheld withdrawals on those accounts. Well, that means, again, that money's not tangible. It's not tangible. Now, it is a parallel economy. It is parallel money. It's not regulated and centralized currency, but there is still power over it that you may not can access it all the time. So falling back to, our lands, our cattle, having food, having gold, those things are important. Because of the economy, sometimes we're not hearing all the things that we probably need to hear, what kind of financial shape we're really in. So for the greater good, when it comes to finances, I think a lot of those things are withheld from us. Why? Because they don't want to run on the banks. They don't want any contagion. Understand that. However, that's when I come back and say, we need to gain wisdom and see tangible goods and tangible assets and having a currency that you can hold right now. Because guess what? If all of a sudden something happens, are we going to be able to pay all the debts? Are we going to be able to cover all the creditors? Are we going to be able to cover all the debts? Or are we going to see a parallel economy like the Bitcoin? Are we going to have problems there again like we saw with crypto just a few months ago? There's a lot of ifs, but because we're not talking about it and hearing more about it, I don't believe we realize the severity of our bank failures and the severity of how volatile our money system is in America. Think of BRICS. Think of all these countries that are pulling against us. All those petroleum-based societies and countries are tending to fall in the BRICS nations now. That doesn't play well for America. And again, we're not showing strength across America. So by us kind of covering up economy issues and the economic problems and the money issues, that could be to our detriment. So for the greater good, maybe, but for you personally, you need to gain wisdom in seeing what is going on around you. Because for your safety, you need to be prepping and putting up money and putting up food and assets, because it could catch us and we're not ready. Second point that we're hearing just vaguely about is Iran. Iran has hated America for a long time. We know that. But look at what's happening. We've got a U.S. contractor that has been killed. We're seeing drone strikes and airstrikes all through Syria and the Middle East. Of course, here we are again talking about the Middle East. Because we don't show strength in our White House and we're not showing strength across the world, we're seeing volatility across the world. Of course, you see the Russia-Ukraine war, you see the Chinese situation, and you see the fact that now Iran is siding with Russia on a lot of issues. News articles saying they're within months of having a true nuclear bomb. Do you think we are safe? Do you think Israel's safe? Do you think anyone that is in the alliances that we're supposed to be taking care of are going to be safe if Iran has a bomb? It's something that we need to talk about. But what have we heard from our administration? This administration, and not really Trump, but the one before it with Obama, they did all these Iranian deals to keep peace over there. Well, there's no peace. There's no peace in the Middle East. We understand that. But really, a lot of these issues we caused because we put our hands to dabble in it, and we shouldn't have been dabbling in it. Same way what we're doing with this proxy war with Russia and Ukraine. We're dabbling in it, and we shouldn't be. And that brings up the third point. Because we're not hearing about our financial issues. We're not hearing about the Iran issues. Thirdly, we are so weak across the world that now China is trying to promote peace with Russia. We don't even have a spot at the table. And all of a sudden, if we see that China and Russia go together and they build an agreement, and to be honest with you, they could probably present something to Ukraine and say, listen, at this point, you're going to lose. We're trying to make this better and we're going to help you rebuild. Then what it does, it takes all our monies, all our taxpayer dollars, all the funding we've done, all our infrastructure that we've put over there, all our military stuff that we've put over there, all our secrets. We're not even at the table to where we can control what goes on and what agreements are reached. And we've lost, hundreds of billions of dollars, and a lot of our intel, a lot of our military supplies are over there, and we don't even have a seat at the table with this agreement. And the scary thing is, we should definitely have a seat at that table, but then we're pushing back. We're clapping back saying, well, we should not want them to agree to a treaty or to a ceasefire. What? So we want to see hundreds of thousands more die? No, the problem is because we didn't have a seat at the table, we want to be a part of the agreement, and we're willing to see this war to keep on going until everything is stipulated on what we want. Well, we should have never been over there, and that we'd have never had this issue. We would have had hundreds of billions of dollars of our own money to help us with our banking and financial crisis issue. But no, we had to give it to a country that we have no basis being over there. Our news media and our government say we have to fund Ukraine. It's for the greater good. It's for our safety that Russia struggles and can't take this land. It's for our good to watch Taiwan. Do you see how they play on making us always go to war, making us always take our tax dollars and pay for these wars and this movement of troops when These are our sons and daughters, and we should want them to stay here and take care of our nation and our borders. It's amazing. They want to take our firearms here in America, but we're willing to buy firearms for another country to fight another country. They're willing to want established borders over in another country, but not established borders here. So the play on words is, it's for our safety that Ukraine survives and does well and takes over and takes their land back. However, it's not for our safety for us to have firearms and not to have borders. That makes no sense. No sense. So a little recap before the last point. We see a banking problem that's happening. It is bigger than we can even imagine, but because it's for our greater good as a country, we don't talk about it. Second, we see Iran, for the safety of the nations, we have put money over there for peace because we want to see peace in the Middle East. Every president is guilty of falling for that. It's not going to happen. And all of a sudden now it's becoming really serious over there. It's an emergency. However, we're not hearing enough about it. Thirdly, for our safety, Russia should not be going into Ukraine. Ukraine borders and the Ukraine people should be safe. We would say the same thing here. However, we've been manipulated to believe that our borders and our firearms are no good here, but those borders and those firearms are good over there and sending hundreds of billions of dollars. Corruption, corruption, corruption. On both sides of the aisle, all politicians, majority, I don't want to say all, majority of politicians are corrupt, looking out for themselves, being narcissistic, and funding their own pockets with these lobbyists. If we don't hold morals and values back at a higher standard for both sides of the aisle, then we're just going to keep on failing. And here's what I mean. For the longest, we just hear there's so much money going to Ukraine that we actually almost keep a blind eye to it. When we first sent, $1 billion over there, or $4 billion or $2 billion, when we started sending those first few numbers, it was a big deal. Now we hear that we're sending 40 billion, 100 billion, another 50 billion, another 20 billion, $300 million worth of supplies. We actually are just so inundated with all those numbers that we don't realize actually what we're doing. Same way with banking. We hear the interest rate going up. Inflation's bad, inflation's bad. No, it's good, it's going down. We hear it so much that we're inundated with it, and then we just kind of chime it out. We keep a blind eye to it. Same with these wars. Now, with corruption, we hear that this person's corrupt, we hear that this person's corrupt, we hear that this one's taking money, we hear that this one's trying to give hush money to this person, we hear that this and this and this. We hear that this family's making money off our government and they shouldn't have been. If we don't hold that accountable, our nation will falter. We're faltering now. We have no power. We've just talked about Iran, and we talked about China, we talked about Russia. Those things are happening. We talked about our banking sector. Those things are causing us as a nation to look weak, but then on top of that, to have corrupt leadership, and for us to not call it out is unbelievable. I know we're not perfect. We're humans. We sin. Understandable, and we can look past sin, especially because we're never gonna be perfect, but we have to strive to be. If you would see term limits, that would help. These bureaucrats that's been there for 40 and 50 years, do you honestly believe they're doing anything for you? They're multimillionaires, and you are still living the same way you were, and they're promising all these things to you. Look past the fluff, because we tend to just think, well, they're gonna change it this time. They're looking out for our good. They're doing things that are safe and effective for us. I think you're just blinded and inundated with so much information that you tend to just chime it out. You blind yourself from it. You really don't see what's going on. We have corrupt leadership leading America that is in a very destabilized financial time into a brink of war. That's what we really just discussed in this video. For our safety, for our good, and to keep stuff from us, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a corrupt leadership leading us into brink of war when we really don't have the financial stability or really even the military assets to do it. With nuclear powers. Let's throw that in there too. With nuclear powers that tend to be aligned on one side, and we're here with people not wanting to use gas. That's worried about the climate issues. That's worried about diversity. Do you get what I'm saying? How is America ever going to show strength? And how is America ever going to come out? And how are you going to actually know the truth and know what's best for your family if all we hear is, well, we have to be safe here. This is for your good. This is for your safety. And this is really what's happening. Corrupt leadership leading us into brink of wars with nuclear powers and a destabilized dollar. And a financial institution, of course, that is almost pure crisis. If we don't get a basis, you know, this is where we were when we were successful. This is where we're at now. We've got to go back. We've got to get back to a basis and kind of not have a reset, not have anything like that. I don't want to use those terms, but we've got to get back to a revitalization of America. A revitalization. We can fix all this, but we have to be wise in knowing really what's going on. The terms that we use, the hiding, all that stuff, and then the overload of information that probably is not truth all the time, makes us take a blind eye and turn our head towards what's really going on. And if we don't know what's really going on, then we won't be prepared of what's to come. So guys, be prepared and understand that when you see things happening, especially on just your normal news, when you hear your politicians on either side spewing some of the things they spew, and they've been there for 40 and 50 years, sometimes they may be not telling you the truth. It may not be for your good. So do a little digging, find truth, prepare your family, because I do believe we're gonna see some tougher times, especially over the next few years. Iran, China, Russia, our banking institutions, and leadership on both sides that has a lot of corruption and a lot of establishment bureaucrats that are not looking out for you. Focus on what's going on around you so that way you can be prepared. Last thing I want to talk about, and then I'm gonna shut up. We have to find revitalization. We have to find a renewal in American prosperity, but also American resilience. We have to take pride in America. There's no pride in America, or it may be on just a minority of people that's got pride in America. We have to look at history, see where we've come from, see how successful and blessed America has been. When we see that, then we're thankful. We don't take it for granted. And then we can see revitalization. We can see spiritual revival. We can see a turn back to taking care of our borders, taking care of our families, and having true freedoms. We got to get there. But it's going to take us working hard as a people and as America to see that take place. I'd hope it doesn't take a major chaotic event to happen, and I'm scared it will. So if it does, you have to be prepared. We have tons of videos on stockpile and prepping and being prepared. Please understand the value in being prepared and putting your money sometimes back at your home, putting your money in assets such as food and bartering goods, precious metals. Find value in those things and get the right information for you so you can protect your family and be prepared. True hope and true guidance and true repentance and revival will happen when we seek Christ and when we follow that leading from Christ, and understanding that we need to be God-fearing and not take for granted all the blessings we've had in America. Then I think we will see an America that was the city on a hill and that people looked to, that kept peace across the world, and that has stabilized currency to help people across the world, and not the weak, feckless situation that we're in today. We need to rely back on Christ, and when we rely back on God and Christ, we will see a stronger America. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Again, keep praying for the people of Middle and North Mississippi. They need our prayers because there's a lot of those communities that just got decimated. So be in prayer for them. I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless. Happy homestead, y'all.